annualization of the salaries and allowances paid to senior state officers, public servants, elected officials, from MCA all the way to president.
Do we laugh or cry? MPs shocked by Uhuru's proposal to slash all public officers' salaries.
50% of all the money collected as revenue from the Kenyan taxpayer goes into the pockets of less than 2% of the country's total population.
We are milking Kenyans dry, Uhuru tells 700,000 government workers. Plus, Uhuru declares war on bandits, warlords and drug lords as 11 are killed in Baringo attack.
Kama mimi nimelala chini miezi miwili, hii ni ya tatu.
And back to work. Public hospitals rising from the dead as doctors resume duties across the country. Good evening from the KTN News Center. I am Ben Kitili. Many thanks for joining us on the broadcast tonight. We have the flashpoints of President Uhuru Kenyatta's final State of the Nation address before the August 8th, 2017 general election. Apart from our ABO team and the reports from Parliament buildings earlier today, we have the most qualified analysis here in Nairobi. We shall be talking to the National Super Alliance co-principal and the Amani National Congress party leader Musalia Mudavadi to just give his perspectives on the State of the Nation address.
Indeed, and later on, after KTN Prime, KTN's Joe Ageo will be speaking to the Majority Leader in the National Assembly, that's Aden Duale, alongside the Deputy Minority Leader, Jacoyo Midiwo. You don't want to miss that. It's a State of the Nation special right after KTN Prime. Welcome to the show. My name is Sophia Wanuna. Our sign language interpreter tonight is William Silla.
Now, Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta has thrown his weight behind a radical recommendation to slash salaries of all public officers, including elected leaders, from the president to a member of the county assembly.
Now, according to the president, the wage bill is unsustainably high, with only 700,000 government workers and politicians consuming 50% of all revenue collected by the national government.
That's KTN's senior political reporter Chris Tyro now tells us the pay cut proposal could either be the magic re-election trump card or a tripwire, not just for the president, but also for every single member of the National Assembly.
In his last State of the Nation address before the general election, President Uhuru Kenyatta decided to lay bare the state of Kenya's wallet, or at least what is left of it, after government officers and serving politicians take their half of Kenya's total revenue basket. Uhuru says Kenya is nearing the breaking point.
Of the salaries and allowances paid to senior state officers, public servants, elected officials, from MCA all the way to president. That will result in a reduction in salaries and allowances for those elected in August this year.
The statement came as a surprise to many lawmakers by their facial expression, before some of them gave the president a standing ovation.
I appreciate that the silent fear of every politician is ending their career in politics broke and destitute. We must always remember that the calling of leadership is to serve, not to become rich through serving.
The 349 Kenyan MPs in the National Assembly and their 67 counterparts in the Senate earn a basic salary of 532,500 shillings each. When allowances are added, their pay easily rises above 1 million shillings per month. in a month, their salary accumulates to approximately $500 million shillings. With 2,222 members of the county assembly out of the 47 counties, they receive a basic salary of 124,800 shillings. When allowances are added, they receive approximately $500,000 shillings monthly, which accumulates to 1.1 billion shillings.
I fully support the recommendations of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, and I call upon all of us to adopt these recommendations.
The president also justified the heavy borrowing, which now stands at 3.2 trillion shillings since they took over power.
My administration has undertaken, both from domestic and international creditors, has been solely to finance the most aggressive development agenda in Kenya's history. The evidence of the greatly expanded transport infrastructure, increased energy production, increased access to electricity, and improved security are plain for all Kenyans to see.
Members of parliament will now have a week to debate and deliberate on the president's speech before any necessary legislation is decided upon. As much as the proposal to slash salaries of all elected leaders will resonate well with the public, the final decision still lies on the hands of members of parliament. Well, will the proposal sail through? Chris Dairu, KTN News at Parliament Buildings.
It's on our big Q, want to hear from you. We're asking, do you think members of parliament will support the proposal to reduce salaries of all appointed and elected public officers? That is a proposal we've heard today from the president. It wanted effected once it comes to parliament. But do you think those members of parliament, your leaders, will effect this proposal? Talk to us tonight on KTN News at KTN Kenya. You can tweet us at Sophia Wanuna, at Ben_Kitili. Would love to hear from you tonight. And Ben Kitili is standing by for us with that interview with NASA co-principal Musalia Mudavadi. Ben?
Indeed, thank you, Sophia. And we're joined by National Super Alliance co-principal and leader of the Amani National Congress, former Vice President Musalia Mudavadi. Thank you so for joining us on the program tonight.
Thank you very much.
All right, from that story by Chris Dairu, a rationalization of allowances and salaries. This means pay cuts for elected leaders. Is this something that you would applaud from that speech today?
Well, I think it would be a very good initiative if it can be done. Remember what I'm saying, if it can be done, all right?
Right.
Because this is a commitment that is being made, and then it's a commitment that will have to be approved by parliamentarians. And therefore, you cannot rule out a situation where self-interest will also dominate here. So it will resonate well with the public, no doubt. But the question is, will it be implemented? Okay?
Right.
The second thing I would quickly comment on this is that what has really generated the problem of this excessive wage bill, all right? Because as much as we may talk about the wage bill being high, and then saying that you want to engineer a reduction of the pay bill, the question you need to ask yourself is this: what are you doing about inflation? What are you doing about the cost of living? Because where has the surge for better pay come from? It has arisen because inflation now is at 9%. The cost of basic commodities, whether it is food, whether it is paraffin for the ordinary mwananchi, whether it is diesel for the farmer, all these costs, the fertilizer, are now feeding into this process.
Right.
So when you talk about a huge wage bill, to what extent is the management of the economy by the government contributing to the demand for higher wages?
All right. Hold that thought. Now, in his address, President Uhuru Kenyatta also did try to address the issue, also said his administration has tightened the noose on all suspected drug lords at the port of Mombasa. He maintains that the focus on drug lords, politicians fueling banditry in the Rift Valley, and corruption cartels will be unrelenting in the months heading to the election. Here's KTN's senior political reporter Duncan Haimba with that report.
Apart from directing his energy on taming the ever-ballooning public wage bill, President Uhuru Kenyatta's key focus was insecurity. That seems to have forced Jubilee administration back to the drawing board.
We are still confronted by lawlessness and violence in the form of banditry in parts of the North Rift and Laikipia. I wish to reiterate again that my administration cannot and will not condone the blatant violation of the rights guaranteed in our Constitution.
His guns seemingly trained on specific individuals.
And we will use all means at our disposal to pursue and bring to justice all those involved in causing this mayhem. I take this opportunity to warn politicians in the affected areas to stop incitement to any form of violence, for you will indeed be held to account.
He is also promising continued pressure and war on the drug trafficking network in the coastal region.
I also wish to assure those distraught mothers who have pleaded with me during my recent visits to the coast that my administration will catch up with the drug lords who are poisoning our children. We shall hold them to account for the deaths they have caused and the families that they continue to destroy.
While admitting that war against corruption is far from being won, the president revealed that through the Asset Recovery Unit, the government has been able to recover 3 billion shillings. On matters security, the president says his 4-year administration has invested heavily in security, which has significantly improved. However, what he reported to the House this afternoon could be contrary to the reality on the ground, given that few hours before he delivered his 4th State of the Nation address, fresh killings were reported in Baringo County, a same region that has now been gazetted as dangerous and disturbed. Duncan Haimba, KTN, Parliament.
Duncan Haimba for us. Thank you, Duncan. So 2 issues here. There is insecurity and drug abuse. We'll talk about insecurity later on. But so how would you describe the government's commitment to the fight against drug abuse and the narcotics trade in particular?
Well, in terms of pronouncements, clearly there are positive pronouncements that there is going to be a serious onslaught on anybody who's involved in drug trafficking and anything that deals with illicit and harmful substances to the public. That is a positive thing, and that is a positive statement. But what we want to all do, because we do not want drugs, we don't want our society ruined, we must have a concerted effort. We must see a legitimate process. We must see a process where there's also justice in dealing and fighting with the drug issues, so that it is done in a lawful manner and done expeditiously, so that it is not something that can be used in any way to perhaps victimize individuals. But I support the position that the war on drugs must be fought.
What's your take?
Nobody would go against that particular
What's your take on the government's using or being helped by foreign agencies to fight the war on narcotics? Like what are
fighting the drug wars and what have you is an international problem. That's the reality of the day. So there must be collaboration between the government and international drug enforcement, anti-drug enforcement agencies. That is the way to go. Sharing intelligence information, being able to ensure that you can curtail all the routes that drugs are being utilized, that is in order. What is important is that let us really walk the talk.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, our wall-to-wall coverage of the State of the Nation address by the President continues shortly. We shall be speaking to Musalia Mudavadi shortly on more of his perspectives on the address earlier today.
That interview continues shortly, but in other news, patients began streaming into public hospitals today after doctors called off their strike yesterday. However, most hospitals recorded low numbers of patients, while in others, just a few doctors showed up for work.
After a 100-day strike by doctors, a return-to-work formula signed on Tuesday evening paved the way for doctors to go back to work. At the coast, most of the doctors were back to work.
At Coast General right now, I would say we have about 50% who are already at work. Likoni district, we have 100%. Chuda, we have 70%. And Putri is about 70% of the doctors already at work.
At the Coast General Hospital, the wards still had empty beds and only a few patients, mainly accident victims, were at the hospital.
Patient numbers are still down because I think the patients are still waiting to see if actually the doctors are coming back to work. So we're asking the patients to come. Services have begun in all the different departments.
The situation was the same at the Kakamega County General Hospital. The number of patients seeking services was low.
Doctors have resumed duty and services are going on as usual. So patients are encouraged to come from home and seek services.
At the Embu General Hospital, 5 out of the 46 doctors at the hospital had resumed duty, and the hospital's outpatient bay was busy. In Migori, patients who are admitted to hospital under the care of nurses are hoping to get attention from doctors. In Nyeri, it is not only patients who are happy to have doctors back. Vendors outside the Nyeri County Referral Hospital are also relieved.
Biashara yetu ilikuwa chini juu ya hiyo mgomo ya madaktari. Sasa tuko na furaha tele kwa sababu tulikuwa tumekaa kwa nyumba tu.
With the resumption of services in hospitals, albeit at a slow pace, the end of the doctors' strike brings hope to thousands seeking services at public health facilities. Rita Tinina, KTN News.
11 people have been confirmed dead after the Pokot and the Ilchamos communities clashed in a retaliatory attack in Makutani, Baringo South, in the county of Baringo. Victor Ogale with more from that region.
Displaced women, children and pupils of Mukutani Mixed Boarding Primary School arrive at the Nosuro Shopping Center en route to El Dume Primary School, where they will reside till normalcy returns in Mukutani. Hell broke loose on Tuesday after members of the Chamus community attacked Pokots who are their neighbors and made away with cattle Tuesday morning. In the evening, the bandits attacked a camp belonging to the Rapid Deployment Unit, where locals had sought refuge, killing 9 civilians who had sought refuge at a house nearby. A police truck was also ambushed with 2 of its female occupants shot dead.
The situation on the ground is not quite conducive. It was not very safe for us here. So we've actually met the security officers, having picked the bodies from Mukutani area, and we are headed to Kiserian all the way to Marigat and to the Kabarnet Hospital mortuary, where the bodies of the 9 that were shot early in the morning have been taken.
Ironically, while the evacuation exercise was ongoing in Mukutani, led by Rift Valley Regional Coordinator Wanyama Musiambo, the bandits returned once more only to be contained by the officers.
Tumeshinda hapo kukadiria na kutengeneza hali ya usalama. Lakini pia hapo saa hii vile mahali tunatoka kwa vita. Tumeongea na wananchi, lakini wakati tuko pale tukiwa tunaongea na wananchi, hii wachangili bado wako area hiyo na wamekuja tena kwa hiyo shule.
But we would like to appeal for more security personnel, and the operation which has been declared in this area should be faster and more firm.
The injured were first rushed to the Marigat Sub-County Hospital before being referred to the Cabernet County Hospital, while 2 children, a boy and a girl, were rushed to the St. Mary's Hospital in Nakuru County. According to the police, they will hasten their operations, backing up with airstrikes as well as disarming the bandits.
Hii watoto mmeona tunapita nao hao ni wa jamii moja tu. Hivyo watu walikuwa wanaenda hapo wana coordinate, wanatoa watoto wa jamii moja wanawacha wa jamii nyingine kwa sababu walikuwa wamejua ni nini inakuja kufanyika.
Suluhisho ni kunyang'anya hawa bunduki, maanake hakuna kitu kingine ilifanya wao mpaka memea kiasi hii. Ni silaha.
Shida ni kwamba hao majangili walisidi mpaka hata magari ya raia hawapiti barabara. Wamekuweka ma roadblocks na kupiga watu na bunduki. Hata askari wenyewe, hakuna marori ya askari yenye inaenda bila kueskortiwa na kifaru.
Most areas in Baringo South remain on high alert, with locals living in fear of more attacks from the armed bandits. Wanyama Musiambo also told KTN that 3 suspects are in police custody in relation to the killings. Victor Gale, KTN News, Baringo County.
Now, learning was paralyzed at Maseno National School as students boycotted classes to protest the suspension of their principal, Paul Otula, over alleged bullying and sodomy in the school. The students attacked journalists and destroyed media equipment, accusing the media of misreporting the vices in the school that led to the disciplinary action against their principal.
They first took to the road to Maseno University, singing and chanting before the cameras. But 2 of their teachers interrupted, asking them to stop smiling at the cameras as the media had allegedly soiled the name of the school. It was at this point that the students turned their anger at the journalists covering the event, pelting them with stones and other crude weapons. KTN's cameraman Nicholas Mburu sustained soft tissue injuries on his forehead, while his camera was damaged, forcing him to halt the coverage. A journalist from Nation Media Group was also injured in the melee, as a vehicle belonging to MediaMax was also damaged. Police had a rough time trying to restrain the students from attacking the journalists. Maseno High School has been in the news for the wrong reasons. Reports of rampant sodomy in the school has forced the Teacher Service Commission to suspend the principal, Mr. Otula, for 90 days to pave way for investigations into the vices. Following the suspension, Homa Bay High School Principal Andrew Buop was appointed to act as Maseno School Principal. These sodomy allegations came to the fore after a Form 1 guardian in the institution withdrew a student after he was allegedly sodomized by his seniors. Investigations by the area Ministry of Education officials also revealed possible cases of students bullying, a situation that saw TSC initiate a probe. The school's Parents Association was opposed to the suspension of the principal and sought to block the acting principal from taking charge of the school. Rashid Ronald, KTN News, in the county of Kisumu.
We still have the National Super Alliance co-principal and party leader of the Amani National Congress, Musalia Mudavadi, here to talk about the State of the Nation address by the President, the final one ahead of the August elections. Thank you for staying with us, sir.
Thank you.
You are former finance minister. Economic growth average of 5.9%, government debt of 50% of the GDP. But the President says Kenya can pay her debts comfortably. What is your analysis of this?
Well, I think it's unfortunate that the President is not taking this thing as seriously as it should be taken. Because the reality of the matter here is that for an economy of our size, when you say you have a growth rate of about 5.6 or 5.8%, and then your public debt is at about 50% of GDP, in fact slightly more, and you say there's nothing wrong, then that is a serious understatement of the real situation. First of all, one fundamental issue that comes out is that to service that public debt requires a lot of public borrowing. And right now, we have been seen, and it's advertised in the papers, the government has been putting out notices for either bonds or bills requiring to raise maybe 10 billion or something, and then they get offers of 35 billion. Now, this tells you that the person who has the largest appetite to get money from the system is the government. All right? That is not good at all. Secondly, the central bank itself and even the National Statistics Bureau has said that the credit expansion in our economy has shrunk, which means the whole philosophy that may have informed President Uhuru Kenyatta to sign the capping of interest rates so that the money can go to Wanjiko in the businesses. We are now seeing exactly the opposite. Credit expansion has shrunk. And if credit expansion has shrunk, then that means it's only the government that is taking the money from the people. The other way to quickly fill this situation is that it will either lead to more borrowing, and inevitably it's going to lead to more taxation.
Your alliance, the National Super Alliance, has been campaigning on a lot of issues. One of them has been the issue of the public debts, saying, quoting some numbers as being the amount of money that every child that is being born in Kenya is born as debt. Haven't you been, blowing it over the top a bit?
No, we have not been blowing it over the top. We are actually forewarning Kenyans that there is a serious problem. And I can tell you, when the NASA government takes over in August this year, one of the biggest challenges is going to be the strategy on debt reduction and debt management. Because the reality is that it's not enough to tell us that I've borrowed this money to invest in infrastructure, all right? What is the structure of that debt? How much of it is commercial and therefore affecting interest rates? How much of it is concessionary so that it is a long-term debt? But what we have seen, a lot of the mega projects that the government is undertaking is on commercial borrowing. That is very painful to the Kenyan people.
So
and then the question is, do we have value for money in the context of what is the actual cost of some of these projects? Because when you look at the SGR, which is a pet subject they use there, we have not really been told clearly who did the feasibility studies and so forth. Is it one organization? Was it a complete turnkey project? Who is assessing that we have value for money?
Speaking about the SGR, let's talk about it. It's the Jubilee administration's pet project. What are the big issues that you have with the SGR project?
I think the big issue here is that we need to be told very clearly that are they satisfied that the cost of this project comparatively to what is the investment of similar programs in places like Ethiopia or even in Northern Africa, Morocco, and this has come up quite often in the media. Are they satisfied that these are reasonably comparative figures? What will happen when a public audit will be done eventually?
All right. Let's talk about devolution.
Yes.
According to the reports, according to the address by the president earlier this afternoon, revenue sharing is up from 15% to 32%. Devolution is another big pillar of your campaign as the opposition. What is your take on how Jubilee has handled matters devolution?
First of all, we will want to make the figure that goes to the devolved counties much higher than that. We would like to see a ratio of about 40% of the national revenues. That is what we want to do. But nevertheless, there'll be need for some verification of some of these statistics. But let me tell you, the Jubilee government has been a reluctant partner on matters devolution. They have not been very supportive to aspects of devolution. The health sector is a classic example. In the health sector, they said functions have gone to the county governments, but they never released the corresponding resources, financial resources, to back up what went to the county governments. They said there was equipment being supplied, equipment that was never even identified in terms of what are the needs of the various counties. It was a blanket arraignment. So the whole procurement process remains with the national government. And then these guys are told, you go and handle these functions. That is one factor that this government has shown as a reluctant partner on matters of devolution. A more classic example. You do not say you're supporting devolution, and then we see the kind of sparks we have seen in public between the president and the governor of Turkana, who was simply asking for some rationality in terms of sharing of oil.
Some would say that is a political contest that had other forces like the opposition leaders in it.
I think, and then the other side of it, let me also put it, if you do not want Joho at your function, why don't you just call him and tell him, don't come to my function? You don't go and put the guy under office arrest in his own county. I mean, we are talking of issues security here, and we are talking of having done very well in ensuring that the ratio of the policeman to the population is at one policeman to 380 people.
Yes.
And the international standards are 1 to 400 people, which means you're doing very well. Now, if you're doing very well, is this ratio supposed to be keeping people under office arrest?
Right.
Or is it supposed to be helping in dealing with the Baringo problem?
Yes, good point. And that is my final question to you, sir. The issue of insecurity, a lot has been happening in the north. Yet from the president's speech, we found out that, like you mentioned, the ratio of police officer to citizen is up to 1 to 380, way over what is required, the threshold by the United Nations. What is the analysis of insecurity in this country?
It's not in good shape at this point in time, and it is worrying, and it should be dealt with quickly and efficiently, because we are heading to a general election. All right? And whatever the factors are, whether it is drought-related or whether it is politically instigated, like what you have seen in Baringo, what we may be seeing in some parts of Laikipia and other areas, the government must make sure that this does not spiral into other areas. And we are watching very carefully, because as you declare these areas as areas under emergency, and we are heading to an election, we start worrying as a people that let it be genuine in terms of dealing with the insecurity.
All right.
Because it would be unfortunate if we can have some closed counties, and then on the basis of that, people are unable to exercise their democratic rights
to vote. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Salim Mudavadi, National Super Alliance co-principal and leader of the Almani National Congress, former vice president, just giving us his perspectives on the State of the Nation address. That continues. We have more analysis for you on the President's State of the Nation address, the final one ahead of the elections. Sophia, what do you have?
All right, many thanks, Ben Kitili, there for us. Now, the State of the Nation will be continuing here on KTN Prime, rather after KTN Prime on KTN News. KTN's managing editor, Joe Ageo, is standing by in our other studio. He will be hosting the majority leader in the National Assembly, that's Aiden Duale, as well as the deputy leader of the minority in the National Assembly, Jacoyo Midiwo. Joe, what do we expect from that discussion?
All right, thank you very much, Sophia. Yes, indeed, the speech is done, and the reactions are sharp and varied, as you just saw there with Musalia Mudavadi. And yes, we are going to be looking at, did the president speak to the issues that are of the greatest concern to Kenyans, and what exactly is the state of the Kenyan nation? And yes, as you mentioned, two gentlemen who would know, Eden Duale and Jacoyo Midiwo. You can't afford to miss that. In the next 20 minutes, we'll be doing that.
All right, so stay with us here on KTN News, that discussion. Welcome to KTN Business. Now, the president has defended the Jubilee government's track record, stating that they have fulfilled a number of promises they made in regard to improving Kenya's economy. KTN's Abby Agina was at the State of the Nation address and revisits the key milestones as well as the unfulfilled promises.
When President Uhuru Kenyatta took office in 2013, he pledged several promises. Top among his promises was to transform Kenya's economy and grow it by double digits. In his last State of the Nation address before the polls, Under his first term in office, he outlined some of his administration's achievements.
Our gross domestic product has expanded at a strong average annual growth rate of 5.9% since 2013.
Another area the president emphasized his government had made strides was on service delivery under the Huduma centers, as well as the rollout of the e-citizen platform.
Our revenues from tax collections have increased from 847 billion shillings in 2013 to 1.2 trillion shillings at the end of 2016.
The president lauded the progress made in the energy sector, with at least 2,300 megawatts added to the national grid and at least 14,000 schools connected as well.
The national government has been able to provide street lights in all county headquarters and to 36 other towns across the country. And this has injected economic vibrancy into previously sleepy towns.
Of the Jubilee government's significant achievements, according to the president, was in infrastructure, with works on the multi-billion shilling standard gauge railway project expected to come to an end by June this year. Despite successes achieved, there are areas the Jubilee government missed the target. Key among them is tackling unemployment.
In spite of this good macroeconomic performance, there are still, however, too many Kenyans who are struggling to make ends meet, to find jobs, and to support their families.
So far, the Kenyatta-led administration has generated 2.3 million jobs since 2013, against a target of 5 million.
Well, on the economic agenda, the president has defended the Jubilee track record, indicating that his administration has been able to foster a better business environment.
For many observers, the Jubilee scorecard is awash with both positives and negatives, but the overall assessment will be put to test as Kenyans face the ballot in August. Abi Agina, KTN News.
The Environment and Natural Resources Cabinet Secretary Judith Wahungu has banned the use of plastic paper bags in the country. In a notice in the Kenya Gazette dated February 28th, the CS states that the banned plastic bags fall in two categories: carrier bags and flat bags. The notice reads, and here I quote, "It is notified to the public that the Cabinet Secretary for Environment and Natural Resources has, with effect from 6 months from the date of this notice, banned the use, manufacture and importation of all plastic bags used for commercial and household packaging." End of quote. Already manufacturers are up in arms over what they term failure to consult them. Previous efforts to abolish the use of plastic bags have failed, and it remains to be seen if the latest ban will hold any water. In January 2011, the National Environmental Management Agency, NEMA, declared a ban on below 0.6 millimeters in thickness, but no results were achieved by that move. In 2007, the government had issued a ban against bags below 0.3 millimeters in thickness, which also failed. Plastic bags are a general nuisance which clog drains, are hard to dispose of, and have been baled for harming livestock as well as wild animals. Finally, in business today, for the first time in 11 years, Equity Bank has posted a decline in profitability, blaming a poor economic performance that saw its non-performing loans portfolio more than double. Gross non-performing loans and advances were up 106% over the one-year period to 18.75 billion from 9.08 billion in 2015. Provisioning for the bad debt jumped 173% in 2016 on the back of a weak economy that has seen a large number of SMEs and large corporates unable to service debt. And on a day when President Kenyatta sought to reassure Kenyans about just what his government had done to improve the business operating environment, Equity Bank, the largest bank in the region by customer numbers, was announcing it would be scaling down on lending to small businesses as it sought to wait out what it termed turbulence.
Is a slowdown in risk-taking. When risk is not being paid for, you don't take risk rationally. Look at large enterprises this year. They are affected significantly by the microeconomic environment. People sometimes, we are aggregators of the marketplace. And so we can't behave irrationally to the marketplace. If the large enterprises are having difficulties also themselves, moving from 0 to almost 6%, then we are also cautious. And you saw the large enterprises also.
Thank you for staying with us here on KTN Prime. So tonight we did report on many flashpoints of the State of the Nation address by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Among the proposals is that the President Kenyatta will be supporting a recommendation to slash salaries of all public officers, including elected leaders. On our big question discussion, we did ask you, do you think the MPs will support that proposal to reduce salaries of all appointed and elected public officers?
GKK Kulabusia is tweeting, I support the president. He should use the tyranny of numbers to expedite the process.
Aketi 100 tweets and says, as expected, the MPs will resist, but they've got no option because the decision time is here.
Unfortunately, our time is up this evening, but we thank you so much for taking the time to tweet in and send in your messages. That's why we'll leave it for now, but Lynn Washira is coming up with sports news after this, and of course thereafter, Ben.
Yes, many thanks. Of course, after that, Joe Ageo will be coming with his panel to put more perspective on the State of the Nation address. We'll be hosting the leader of majority in the National Assembly and the leader of minority in the National Assembly, that is Jacomi Duo, after this, that is on more perspectives on State of the Nation. I'm Ben Kitili, good night.
I'm Sophia Wanuna. Thanks for watching.